I was the quiet one with the receipts. The one who watched our beloved club president steal $50,000 from children's sports programs while blaming me for the missing money. The one who let him think he was winning, right up until I projected his personal vacation photos, paid for with our fundraiser cash, onto the screen during his big re-election speech. It started on a Tuesday evening in late September. The community center's fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I sat alone in the small office we used for club business. Rain tapped against the windows while I reviewed our quarterly financial reports. As treasurer for our local sports club, I took my volunteer position seriously. We weren't a fancy organization, just a community group that provided affordable sports programs for local kids, especially those whose families couldn't afford expensive leagues. I'd been treasurer for 3 years. It wasn't glamorous work, but I enjoyed the precision of it. Every dollar accounted for, every receipt filed, every donation tracked. The club had become my second home after my divorce. While I rebuilt my life, this volunteer work gave me purpose and community when I needed it most. That evening, something felt off in the numbers. A $3,500 withdrawal from our fundraising account didn't match any approved expenses. I double-checked my records, thinking I might have forgotten something. Nothing. I made a note to ask Martin, our club president, about it at our next meeting. Martin Klein had been president for 5 years. Charismatic, tall, always dressed in crisp button-downs with our club logo. Parents loved him. Kids high-fived him. Local businesses opened their checkbooks when he came calling for donations. He had a way of making everyone feel special, included. When he spoke at events, people listened. When he asked for volunteers, hands went up. When he promised to grow our programs, no one doubted him. I admired him too. At least I did until that Friday meeting. "John, there you are," Martin's voice boomed across the conference room as I walked in. His smile was too wide, his handshake too firm. "Ready for the budget review?" I nodded, taking my usual seat. The other board members, all volunteers like me, chatted about weekend plans as they settled in. I waited until Martin called the meeting to order before bringing up my question. "I noticed a $3,500 withdrawal from the fundraising account on September 15th, I said, keeping my tone neutral. "I don't have any documentation for it. Was it for the new equipment?" The room didn't go silent. That would have been too dramatic. But there was a subtle shift in energy. Martin's smile flickered for just a moment before returning, brighter than before. "Ah, good catch, John," he said smoothly. "That was for the deposit on the venue for the winter fundraiser. I must have forgotten to give you the receipt." Reasonable explanation, yet something in his tone made me uneasy. "Great. If you could email me that receipt, I'll get it filed properly," I replied. Of course," Martin waved his hand dismissively. "I'll dig it up this weekend." He quickly moved on to the next agenda item. Too quickly. I made another note in my ledger. A week passed. No receipt. Then another week. Still nothing. I sent a polite email reminder. Martin responded with an apology and a promise to find it soon. A third week passed. Meanwhile, I noticed another discrepancy. A $2,200 payment to a vendor I didn't recognize. Then another. $2,800 for consulting services with no supporting documentation. Each time I asked, Martin had a plausible explanation and a promise to provide documentation that never materialized. I began to dig deeper, reviewing bank statements from the past year. Small withdrawals at first, growing larger over time. All told, nearly $50,000 was missing or poorly documented. For our small club, this was devastating. Money that should have gone towards scholarships for kids who couldn't afford registration fees, equipment upgrades, facility rentals. I was preparing to bring these concerns to our next board meeting when Martin called me directly on a Sunday evening. "John, can you meet me for coffee tomorrow morning? There's something I want to discuss before the board meeting." We met at a small cafe near the community center. Martin was already there when I arrived, 2 coffees on the table. He pushed one toward me as I sat down. "Cream, no sugar, that's how you take it, right?" he asked with that same too wide smile. I nodded, wrapping my hands around the warm mug, but not drinking. Something in my gut told me to stay sharp. "John, I've noticed you've been asking a lot of questions about our finances lately," Martin began, leaning forward. "I appreciate your dedication, but I'm concerned you might be creating confusion among the board members." "Confusion?" I asked. "Yes. You see, I've been reviewing the books myself, and I've found some concerning patterns. Martin's voice dropped to a concerned whisper. There are several discrepancies in our accounts over the past year. My coffee remained untouched as I listened. I believe there may have been some mismanagement of funds, he continued. Nothing intentional, I'm sure. Probably just oversights. But as president, I need to address this at the next meeting. It took me a moment to realize what was happening. He was setting me up, creating a narrative where I was the problem. What kind of discrepancies? I kept my voice steady. Missing receipts, unexplained withdrawals, funds allocated incorrectly. He listed exactly the issues I had found, the ones he was responsible for. I've scheduled an audit review for next month's board meeting. I wanted to give you a heads up as treasurer. The audacity was breathtaking. He was going to publicly question my competence to cover his own theft. I see, was all I said. Thank you for letting me know. Martin seemed relieved by my calm response. He probably expected defensiveness or panic. Instead, he got quiet acceptance, which he mistook for defeat. I know this must be difficult to hear, he said, reaching across to pat my hand with false sympathy. But we need to protect the club. The kids come first, right? Always, I agreed. The kids come first. I left that coffee shop with a clear understanding of what was happening and what I needed to do. Martin had been systematically stealing from our club for at least a year. Now that I was asking questions, he was preparing to blame me for the financial irregularities. He would use his charisma and position to turn the board against me, protecting himself while destroying my reputation. What Martin didn't know was that I had advantages he couldn't imagine. First, I had been meticulous in my record keeping from day one. Every transaction I handled was documented, backed up, and stored both physically and digitally. Second, as treasurer, I had access to bank records going back years. Third, I had built relationships with our bank, our vendors, and our donors. Quiet, professional relationships based on trust and consistency rather than charm. Most importantly, Martin didn't know I had already spotted a pattern in his theft. The missing funds often disappeared right before his personal vacations. A consulting fee before his trip to Mexico. A large equipment purchase before his weekend in wine country. A venue deposit before his ski trip to Colorado. I spent the next 3 weeks gathering evidence. I requested official bank statements for all our accounts. I contacted vendors to confirm payments and services rendered. I built a spreadsheet tracking every discrepancy, every missing receipt, every unexplained withdrawal. I even found social media posts where Martin had inadvertently documented his trips, time-stamped proof of where he was when club money disappeared. The most damning evidence came from an unexpected source. Our club secretary, Anita, mentioned casually that she'd helped Martin book flights for a business conference using the club credit card. He said you approved it, she told me, but I forgot to get you the receipt. There was no business conference. The dates matched his family vacation to Hawaii. All the while, Martin escalated his campaign against me. Small comments in meetings about financial concerns. Emails to board members mentioning the upcoming audit. He even started bringing his friend, a retired accountant, to meetings as a volunteer financial advisor. At our next board meeting, Martin made his move. After routine business, he cleared his throat dramatically. Before we adjourn, I need to address a serious matter, he announced. As president, it's my responsibility to ensure our organization operates with complete financial integrity. The room grew quiet. I kept my expression neutral as I continued taking notes. I've identified some concerning financial irregularities over the past year, Martin continued. Missing documentation, unexplained expenses, possible misallocation of funds. I could feel eyes turning toward me. Martin looked appropriately grave, concerned. I've scheduled a full financial audit for our next general meeting. I believe in transparency, so I want all our members to hear the findings directly. He looked around the room, his expression solemn. This is difficult, but we must protect our club and the children we serve. The implication was clear. As treasurer, any financial problems were my responsibility. My incompetence, or worse, my dishonesty, I put the club at risk. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Martin, I said calmly. I fully support a complete financial review. My easy agreement seemed to throw him momentarily, but he recovered quickly. Excellent. I've already contacted an independent auditor. They'll present at the general meeting next month. What Martin didn't know was that I had already contacted the same auditing firm the week before. I had provided them with my complete records and findings, requesting their professional assessment. They had confirmed what I already knew. Someone had been systematically misappropriating club funds, and it wasn't me. The general meeting was scheduled for a Thursday evening in the high school auditorium. All club members were invited, parents, coaches, volunteers, even the older kids. About 200 people in total. Martin had chosen this public forum deliberately. He wanted witnesses to my humiliation. I arrived early, laptop in hand. The tech volunteer helped me connect to the projector, just in case, I told him. Martin arrived shortly after, looking confident in a new suit with our club logo pin on his lapel. "Big turnout," he commented, surveying the filling seats with satisfaction. "People care about this club." "They certainly do," I agreed. The meeting began with standard business, program updates, coach recognitions, upcoming events. Throughout it all, Martin was at his charismatic best, working the room, drawing laughs, building to his big moment. Finally, it was time. Martin took center stage, his expression shifting to one of grave concern. "Now, I need to address a serious matter," he began. "As your president, I promise transparency and accountability. That's why I've conducted a thorough review of our club finances." He clicked to his first slide, a simplified chart showing our accounts with vague discrepancies highlighted in red. "Over the past year, we've identified nearly $50,000 in questionable transactions," he announced, causing a ripple of murmurs through the audience. "Missing documentation, unexplained withdrawals, funds that should have gone to our children's programs." Another slide, more vague charts, more red highlights. "As president, I take full responsibility for not catching these issues sooner," Martin continued, his voice thick with false remorse. "I trusted our financial processes, perhaps too much." The implication hung in the air. Everyone knew I was the treasurer. Martin hadn't named me directly. He was too clever for that. But the blame was clearly being laid at my feet. "I've invited independent auditors to review our books completely," Martin continued. "They'll be reporting next month. But I wanted you all to hear this from me first, because you deserve the truth." He paused dramatically, looking around the room. "Any questions before we move on?" This was my moment. I raised my hand. "Yes, John?" Martin acknowledged me with a benevolent nod. I stood up, laptop in hand. "Actually, Martin, I do have some information to share, if that's all right." "Of course," he said, gesturing magnanimously. "Though perhaps detailed financial discussions would be better saved for the audit report." "This won't take long," I promised, walking to the front. "May I use the projector?" Martin hesitated but couldn't reasonably object. He stepped aside, confidence still intact. He thought he knew what was coming. My defensive explanation, my excuses, something he could sympathetically dismiss. Instead, I opened my own presentation. My first slide was simple: financial discrepancies, dates, amounts, and documentation. As club treasurer, I take accurate financial reporting very seriously, I began. When I noticed unexplained withdrawals beginning last year, I began documenting them carefully. I clicked to my next slide, a detailed spreadsheet showing dates, amounts, and account numbers. Each highlighted transaction represents money withdrawn without proper documentation, I explained. "You'll notice a pattern." Another click. The same spreadsheet, now with new columns added. Martin's vacation dates, pulled from his from his public social media accounts. Each withdrawal corresponds with a personal trip, I continued calmly. For example, this $3,500 venue deposit on September 15th. Click. A screenshot of Martin's Instagram appeared, him and his family on a beach in Cancun, dated September 16th. The caption read, "Surprise getaway with the family. We deserve this." The room had gone completely silent. This $4,200 equipment purchase in December. Click. Martin and Aspen on a ski trip. This $2,800 consulting fee in March. Click. Martin's Facebook post from a wine country resort. With each slide, Martin's face grew paler. I continued methodically through the evidence. Bank statements. Vendor confirmation stating they never received the payments Martin claimed to have made. The documented trail of Martin using the club credit card for personal expenses. "The independent auditors have already reviewed this documentation," I explained. "Their preliminary report confirms that approximately $47,600 has been misappropriated over the past 14 months. I turned to face Martin directly. "Would you like to address these findings?" For a moment, he just stared at me, shocked that his plan had backfired so spectacularly. Then he tried to regain control. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. These are just coincidences. I can explain each of these transactions. I'm sure you can, I replied. The police detective I spoke with yesterday is very interested in hearing those explanations as well. That was when Martin broke. His carefully constructed persona cracked open, revealing the desperation beneath. You don't understand, he hissed, suddenly dropping his voice so only I could hear. I was going to pay it back. The club owes me for everything I've done. All the hours, all the work. I deserved something in return. I stepped away from him, back to the microphone. I believe we should adjourn this meeting and reconvene after the board has had time to address the situation properly. The aftermath was both swift and measured. The board convened an emergency session that same night. Martin resigned immediately, hoping to avoid criminal charges. The board insisted on full restitution of all stolen funds, plus interest. They also implemented new financial controls, dual approvals for all expenditures, quarterly external reviews, greater transparency with the general membership. Some parents were angry that we didn't press criminal charges. Others were relieved to avoid the negative publicity that would have hurt the club. In the end, protecting the organization and the children it served was more important than punishing Martin. He lost his reputation, his position, and was required to pay back every penny. Consequences that seemed appropriate to most. As for me, I remained treasurer for another year, helping to restore financial stability and trust. The new president, a thoughtful, humble woman who had coached girls' soccer for a decade, worked closely with me to rebuild what Martin had damaged. 6 months after that dramatic meeting, I received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a check for $47,600, the full amount Martin had stolen, along with a brief note. I'm sorry. No signature, but none was needed. I deposited the check into the club account the next day. That afternoon, I approved the purchase of new equipment for our scholarship athletes. Kids who could now play, because the money was where it belonged. The following week, at a small ceremony before a youth soccer game, we unveiled new goals, nets, and uniforms purchased with the recovered funds. As the kids ran onto the field in their bright new jerseys, I felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. No dramatic confrontation could match this moment. Seeing the money back where it belonged, serving the children in our community. I still volunteer with the club, though I've handed over the treasurer role to someone else now. Sometimes new members hear rumors about the scandal and ask me what happened. I don't embellish the story. I simply tell them that our financial controls worked exactly as they should. The system protected itself. Martin moved away shortly after. I heard he took a job in another state, presumably where his reputation hadn't preceded him. I don't wish him ill. People make mistakes, even terrible ones. What matters is accountability, making amends, and moving forward. As for me, I learned something valuable through this ordeal. Quiet integrity outlasts loud charisma. Careful documentation speaks louder than confident accusations. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't a dramatic confrontation, but simply ensuring that justice is served calmly, methodically, and completely. The club is thriving now. Membership is up. Our programs serve more children than ever before. New financial safeguards ensure no single person can ever again abuse the trust placed in them. And me, I still keep meticulous records. I still believe in documentation. I still trust, but verify. Some habits are worth keeping, especially when they protect what matters most. Last month, I ran into one of our longtime coaches at the grocery store. He nodded toward my cart, where I had a receipt neatly placed in my wallet. Still keeping track of everything, huh? He asked with a smile. I returned the smile. Always, I replied. Some things are worth protecting. He nodded, understanding completely. The quiet ones with the receipts, he said. They're the ones you should never underestimate. I couldn't have said it better myself.